Hi guys, how are you? Good evening. Yes, this is an evening lesson. Thank you for joining. So, I'm also good. Thank you. Thanks for asking. So, I want to show you some pictures and let's talk about them, okay? Let me open it. So, what do we see? Just a second. I want to put my screen down here. So, this looks like a timeline. We see the past and we see the now. So this can be a clue. Yes, we're going to talk about a tense in the past. Okay, just start. This is Lucy. Lucy is 16 years old. And now we're going to look at Lucy in the past. This is Lucy when she was a baby in 2004. And this is Lucy when she was like around 1.5 years old in 2005. So what are we going to learn today? We are going to talk about a past tense, not the simple, no, it's too simple for you. We are going to learn about the past perfect continuous. Let's look at structures when it is used. So I can say that it is used to talk about something that started in the past and continued in the past. So let's take a closer look at it and I will explain it to you one more time. So we are using the past perfect continuous tense to talk about the past. The past perfect continuous tense is used to talk about something in the past that started and continued in the past. Okay, it's a little bit slow. Also, we can talk about something that had been happening before something else happened. Let's take the Lucy example. When we think of her as a baby in 2004, we can say she had been crawling. There was a picture of a baby who was crawling, right? Also, we can talk about a period when something happened. The period from 2004 to 2005. What had she been doing in that time period? She had been crawling during this period. We can also say and talk about something that had been happening before something else happening, and that was she had been crawling before she started to walk, right? There was a crawling baby in 2004 and there was a walking baby in 2005. So we can say she had been crawling before she started to walk. Good. Let's look at the structure. Very basic. Subject plus had been plus verb plus ing. So if we take the subject I, we say I had been living, or I had been studying, I had been working. I can make an example about myself. I had been living in Germany. I also had been studying in Germany. I also had been working in Germany. That's right. Before I came to Turkey, yes. The subject you. You had been living. You had been studying. You had been working. He, she, it had been living. He, she, it had been studying. He, she, it had been working. We had been living. We had been studying. We had been working. Last example for they. They had been living. They had been studying. And they had been working. Is that okay? Good. Let's go on. So When do we use the past perfect tense? We use it when we talk about an activity that had been happening. Really easy and basic. We just say, it had been raining all week. It had been happening. Or we talk about a situation. Yes, a situation which had been happening before something else happened. Like I had been going to the hairdresser before it started to rain. Well, that wasn't good for me. Good. We also talk about a situation to describe a situation, and we want to inform the duration, how long it had been happening. Like she had been waiting for him for 8 months. We can use for to demonstrate the time. Or we say she had been waiting for him since December. Okay? We also use the past perfect tense if something that had been happening was happening on a regular basis, like she had been playing volleyball regularly. Or to describe an activity that had been happening plus the reason and the cause or the cause. She was sad because she had been left alone. We are informing the listener about the cause of it. Okay, now I want to talk about verbs again, like in the present perfect continuous. We don't use stative verbs in the past perfect continuous. Actually, we don't use it in any continuous tense. So again, there are dynamic verbs. They're like action verbs. Run, walk, talk, eat, sing, dance, drink. I've written down a few here: work, drink, eat, run, talk. Stative verbs are verbs. They describe a state of being and they don't involve physical action. Like think, believe, desire, doubt. You don't use stative verbs in the past perfect continuous. Don't forget that. It's very important. So let's look again at the structure with one verb for the positive, negative, and the question form. In the positive, we say, I had been living. For the negative, I hadn't been living. And for the question, had I been living? Again, positive for you. You had been living. You hadn't been living. Had you been living? He, she, it had been living. He, she, it hadn't been living. Had he, she, it been living? We had been living. We hadn't been living. Had we been living? They had been living. They hadn't been living. Had they been living? So we can say for the positive form, we use the subject plus had been plus verb plus ing. For the negative form, we use the subject plus hadn't been plus verb plus ing. And for the question form, we use had plus subject plus the been verb plus been verb plus ing. I'm sorry. So now let's talk about contractions, which are very important for this tense. It's totally okay to say I had been running, but most of the time it's really nice when we are between friends and we're talking and it's not formal, it's a very informal situation. We don't usually say I had been running. We just contract it. We take the A away, put an apostrophe in front of the D, and it changes into I'd been running. I had not been running. For the negative form, we take off the O, put an apostrophe in front of the T, join the words together, and it changes into I hadn't been running. For you had been running, to contract you had, we take the H and A away, and it changes into you'd been. In the negative, it's you haven't been. We had been running, we'd been running. Or in the negative, we haven't been running. They had been running, they'd been running. In the positive, they haven't been running. In the negative. He had been running. We take the H and A away, put an apostrophe in front of the D, and it changes into he'd been running. And in the negative, it's he hadn't been running. She had been running changes into she'd been running. And in the negative, she hadn't been running. It had been running changes into it's been running. And in the negative, into it hadn't been running. Okay, this was an information about the contractions. So now I want to talk about the spelling changes of the verb. Most verbs, we just add the ing, like in the 3 examples, think changes into thinking, find, finding, eat, eating. Verbs ending with an E, like bake, use, produce, like, it's actually a soundless E. We drop the E and add ing. Bake changes into baking, use changes into using, produce changes into producing, like changes into liking. Verbs ending with an IE, die, tie, lie. We change the IE into Y and add an ing. Die changes into dying, tie into tying, lie into lying. Now, verbs ending with a consonant, vowel, consonant. We talked about the vowels and consonants in the last lesson, so I think you really do know them well. So again, how does it change? We double the final consonant, the N, and add ing. Plan changes into planning, stop changes into stopping, forget changes into forgetting, begin changes into beginning, regret changes into regretting. Good, I hope this was also helpful. So now I want to make a little quiz. I found one online. Good. Oh, this is already been answered. So we go to the next one. So Mandy was exhausted by the time she went on holiday because we have to use the word work over 55 hours a week. So what do? She had been working. So what did I forget? Yes, I forgot the contraction. So we say she'd been working over 55 hours a week. Let's check the answer. No, not. So what did we wrong? Let's see. Okay, this was just because the she was already standing here. We just had the apostrophe and the D. This was good to see. So let's do the next. The flat was lovely and tidy because my flatmate. Yes? Anybody? Let's see. Had been cleaning. Check answer. Was right. Very good. So let's do the next one. Colin and his wife not live in their home long before Colin changed jobs and they had to move house again. Colin and his wife, what do we say? It's a negative. hadn't been living. This is what I hear here right now. Okay, good. Check answer. Yes, was right. So let's do the next one. Already take. Many European countries, blah, 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 action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions prior to the Kyoto Protocol in 1990. Many European countries, what do we say? First, already, I hear that, already had been taking. Oh, there's a little typo. Check the answer. No. So, what is wrong about this? Yes, you're right. Had and already have to change places. Let's do it. Maybe the system says it's okay. Had already been taking. Let's check the answer. Now it's okay. Good. Well, it's okay to make mistakes. Now we've learned it. Let's do the next one, and it will be the last. Before the recession, the economy, yes, had been growing, had been growing. Thanks for the answer. Let's check it. Okay, good. Thank you so much. I will send a quiz like this as homework on your emails, okay? And you can do it and also find others online and check what you've learned so far. Okay, thank you so much. See you, goodbye.